Good evening, fellow Pennsylvanians. How are you today? Now, I would like to ask you a question. I would like to see a show of hands. What you can see in my hand is a tomato, all right? Now, I would like to see a show of hands of those who think or say that this tomato is a vegetable. 1, 2, 3, 4, all right? And those who think it's a fruit. Only 1 and 2. All right, thank you. And by the way, this tomato is so hard because I'm keeping it in the freezer because I'm delivering this speech 6 times. This is the 3rd time. Today at 2 a.m. in USA, in my club in USA from 2 to 4, then in the Philippines and in Bahrain. Now, having said that, I would like to tell you something. 5 years ago, I have lost my twin brother. We were together like nothing. We were so bonded. We were born both in the 1950s. And we used to study and we graduated together. Now, in the old days, how do we acquire knowledge? We used to actually go physically to the library and spend hours looking into books. And then we go home. But when we go home, we have a good time. We have fun. We are together. But nowadays, with the technology, you can get the information from the internet, from tablets, from anywhere, which has taken our time. We have no more time for each other. We have no more time for family. And wisdom requires time. Now, having said that, I would like to share with you a presentation. And I do hope that you can see my screen. Can I get a confirmation on that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so let me just do this. Okay.
Hey, Haytham, this speech is boring already, man.
Thank you for that observation, but if you are a little bit patient, you might actually change your mind. Now, having said that, as you can see, knowledge is what you see on the left, including that little boy who was drinking Coca-Cola. That was a picture in the Philippines in the 80s. Getting knowledge, you travel and you see things. And on the right-hand side, you can see actually the people or the famous people who are known to be wise. And on top of this, of course, is King Abdulaziz. Now, having said that, wisdom and knowledge. By the way, the tomato is appearing with me on every slide. I have no idea why. But let's see, how do we acquire knowledge? We acquire knowledge by studying, as you actually do now, going to university, getting degrees, join institutions, you do research, investigation, and also through observation in your life. You observe things, you learn things, you get knowledge, and also through experience. But how do we get wisdom? And before I say that, there was actually a saying from Peter Drucker, who's a guru in management and leadership. And he said, learning is a lifelong process. So even if you leave university, even you go and get a job, you always continue to learn in your life. Now, how about wisdom? Wisdom is stepping out of your comfort zone. That's the first step. Now, I remember I was a general manager of a 5-star hotel, which is close to you, for 25 years. I had a good life. I didn't have a comfort zone. I had a special comfort zone. And yet, when a friend of mine called me with a hospital, which was just about to collapse, I had to think twice. It was like a suicidal mission. And I left my comfort zone to take over. And obviously, it was a success after 10 years.
I'd like to add something here. I don't think wisdom is about a comfort zone or learning from failure. I feel like it's something more you're born with. Like it's given to you as you're going through life. You know, it's like you just get some wisdom. Okay. You know, it's just not everyone's wise. Because I remember I went down the road that one time and this guy was just like his 50s, just like drifting on the road. And that wasn't very wise. So you're like, you know, I don't agree here. So it's good.
I take your opinion and I respect that. And if you just bear with me a little bit, because it's a combination of things which I actually am putting on this observation. It's a good point which you have there. Now, you might come to compromise. So being open-minded, it doesn't matter who's talking to you, older, younger, a different culture, listen. And that's why being a good listener is, sorry, that was a mistake. Being a good listener is very, very important. And we in Toastmasters are good listeners. And that's why we have a listening master in everything to test our listening skills. The next thing is having a foresight and intuition. It's as a leader, you have to actually have a vision, which is very, very important. You have to have a foresight, you have to intuition, which is also part of.
Abdulfettah,
Yes,
I love tomatoes. It's actually my favorite. I know you guys think it's maybe a fruit, maybe a vegetable. I know it's confusing, but it's actually a fruit because of the way we plant it. It has seeds in it. That's why
I
yeah, that's my
appreciate that
favorite.
answer, and we will be coming to that in a minute. Why the tomato is troubling with us through all the slides, because one might wonder what the tomato got to do knowledge and wisdom, and why did he ask us this question? So, having said that, and then he said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. First, you have to know yourself. You have to know your weaknesses. You have to work on them. You have to know your strength, and you have to maintain those strengths. You have to be consistent. And by being consistent, that means you have to work on them all the time. Now, oh my God, the tomato is growing. It's getting bigger. So it must know the answer at the end of the day, why the tomato is with us all the time. Now, what are the differences between knowledge and wisdom? The first one, they say knowledge is power, which is true. Because if you have knowledge and you have certificates, and the higher you are, you get a higher position. And of course, you can be a CEO, you can be general manager, you can be chief engineer. But wisdom is a choice to use that power. Now, some people, they get that power and they abuse it. And believe me, they will be short-lived.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt here,
Go ahead,
DM Abdulfettah, but I don't really agree with the idea that knowledge is power. I feel more like that it's the implementation of the power that really gives it, or like the knowledge that's being used. That's what gives it power, not the not just knowledge itself.
Thank you for that observation. You actually just explained what I just said, that knowledge is power. When somebody gets to a position, a high position, whether a government office or a general manager, he has power regardless. Now, what you just said is right. How does he use that power? He has powers. He can fire, he can hire, there's no doubt about it. But separately, sit down with him and he will tell him, he'll praise him and say, look, you did a great job. However, you know, you have one or two things, you could have done it better. Then that person will learn and progresses. And obviously, that is wisdom. The third thing is, in knowledge, we memorize, which is normal. If you have to go to an exam, you have to memorize, you have to learn in order to pass the exam. But wisdom, you have to understand why that's there, why it's done that way. You have to ask yourself questions. Last but not least, in knowledge, they say it's either black or white. There's no in between. They say to you, in mathematics, in whatever it is, they teach you this is right and this is wrong. But really, in life, is it really right, black and white? Are we all 100% perfect? Each one of us has his flaws, his mistakes. So that's why in wisdom, we say we allow for gray areas. Now, let me give you an example. For instance, Toastmasters International have a rule. Judges have to be anonymous. And, and that's the rule you have to follow. And yet, they have a clause which says, when appropriate. Why do they say that? They left a gray area. Because it's not possible all the time. I remember I was a judge in a club with I was chief judge with 3 others, and the club had 12 members, and we are the strangers to the club. And yet the contest chair has to say, the anonymous judges who are invisible, give me a break. I stood up, I said, excuse me, I'm not invisible, I am here, I'm a judge. And that's why I started actually fighting for this anonymity of judges. So there's always a gray area because there's no black and white in our life. And now, while wisdom requires education, as quite rightly said by Toastmaster Faisal, education does not necessarily make people wise. People have actually been educated, they have taken jobs, and they didn't last because they did not know how to actually behave. Now, the tomato. Why is the tomato here? What the tomato has got to do with knowledge and wisdom? And I'll give the answer to my question. Knowing that tomato is a fruit, ladies and gentlemen, as the gentleman just quite rightly said so, because it has seeds, and anything which has seeds is a fruit. Vegetables have roots, have leaves, and they're different. But okay, now we know, now we understood, we got knowledge that tomato is a fruit, but where is the wisdom? Well, the wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. Tomato, you put it in a salad, not because it's a fruit, you put it with a fruit salad. And Mahatma Gandhi once said, happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. That is, ladies and gentlemen, a combination of both knowledge and wisdom. Now, I would like to thank you, but I would like to say one more thing. No matter how far you go in life, you become a CEO, you become a general manager, you become a president of a country, whatever it is, never, ever, ever forget to be grateful to those who helped you along the way. I came a long way. I became CEO, I became a DTM, whatever. But till today and till tomorrow, I'm still learning. And I'm so grateful to 2 mentors in my life, because appreciation is a wonderful thing. It makes what is excellent in others belongs to us. If we are humble, if we listen, if we, as Peter Drucker said, learning is a process, a lifetime process, then we learn. And that's why I'm grateful to 2 mentors. A mentor, which is called Dr. Sheikh Shakil Anjum, who actually introduced me to Toastmasters. Well, I actually was refusing, because when I asked him what is Toastmasters, he said, oh, this is where leadership is. So I laughed. I said, look, come on, I don't want to be, I'm a leader. But I made a mistake, because when I joined, I learned. I knew that that was an arrogant statement which I made, and I'm still learning. And the second one is called DTM Nazir Gazak al-Qasim, who is also my mentor till today, and I'm grateful to them. And that's why, no matter what stage we reach, we have always to be grateful to people who helped us all the way, and we help others. And when we help others, we learn. And when I joined your club, I am, as a coach, trust me, I'm learning in every session. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience. Thank you for listening to me. Back to you, Toastmaster of the Day. Thank you.